Let's learn about how to express things like someone, somewhere, anyone, anywhere, and so on. In this video, we'll cover two types of indefinite expressions made with то and нибудь. And we'll pay close attention to how they're used because they don't correspond exactly to how we use some versus any in English. Let's start with то. We can put this after a question word when we're referring to a specific person, thing, place, and so on. Кто-то звонил вчера вечером. Они живут где-то в России. Она когда-то уже была здесь. Он хочет что-то сказать. Notice how in these examples we're referring to a specific person, a specific place, time, or thing. We may not be able to identify it. I may not know exactly who called or where they live in Russia, but that's okay as long as we're referring to something specific. Keep in mind that when you use a word that changes for case, like кто, что, or какой, you'll need to change it in these expressions too. But the second part, то, does not change. Они чему-то удивились. Он чего-то боится. Она кому-то звонила. Я увидел кого-то в окне. But what if we're not referring to a specific person, place, or thing? Then we can use нибудь, putting it after the question word, just like before. Кто-нибудь звонил? Скажи что-нибудь. Пообедаем где-нибудь вместе. Когда-нибудь поедем в Париж. In all these examples, we're not referring to a particular person, thing, place, or time. In fact, what we're thinking about may not even exist. I don't know if anyone called, and maybe nobody did. There's nothing specific that I want you to say. I don't know where we should go eat, and I don't know when we'll go to Paris. Just as before, you may need to decline the question word for case, but the form of нибудь never changes. Она кому-нибудь звонила? Ты увидел кого-нибудь? You may have noticed that all the examples so far fall into certain groups or patterns. То seems to be used with statements in the past and statements in the present. нибудь seems to be used in questions, commands, and in the future. Those are not bad guidelines, and you'll see them in some textbooks and videos. But sometimes you'll hear examples that seem like exceptions, but actually they do make sense with what то and нибудь really mean. Let's look at some of these examples. Вы хотели что-то сказать? Я вас перебил. Now, if I interrupted you, I know you probably wanted to say something. So even though I'm asking a question, I use то, because I'm referring to something specific, whatever it was you wanted to say. Надо куда-нибудь пойти. It's a statement in the present, and using нибудь makes clear that I don't have any place in mind. I don't yet know where we should go. Так хочется что-нибудь сказать, но ничего в голову не приходит. Since I can't think of anything to say, I use нибудь. I have nothing specific in mind. Let's take a closer look at the end of that last example. Но ничего в голову не приходит. We have anything in the English, but in Russian we say ничего, not что-нибудь. That's because this is a negative expression. We could also say, I can think of nothing. And in negative expressions, we use words formed with ни, like ничего, никто, нигде, and so on. So you'll often hear this pattern. Он что-нибудь знает? Нет, он ничего не знает. We hear нибудь in the question and ничего or some other negative expression in the answer. Even though we can use any for both in English, we use нибудь in the indefinite expression, the question, and some form of ничего, никто, etc. in the negative expression. Here's an example from the classic cartoon Трое из Простоквашино, as Шарик the dog suggests selling something they don't need.
Значит, надо что-нибудь продать.
А что?
А что-нибудь ненужное.
Чтобы продать что-нибудь ненужное, нужно сначала купить что-нибудь ненужное, а у нас денег нет.
Now these are statements in the present, so why does everyone use нибудь? Well, it's because they don't know what to sell. They don't have anything specific in mind. I'll put a link to this segment of the cartoon in the comments below. Summing up, use то after a question word to refer to something specific, something that you can't identify or maybe that you choose not to identify. Use нибудь after a question word to express something more vague, when you don't have a specific thing in mind or when it may not even exist. Logically, то is more common in statements in the past and statements in the present. нибудь is more common in questions, commands, and talking about the future. Those patterns are helpful guidelines, but they're not absolute rules. The most important thing is whether you're talking about a specific person, thing, place, and so on, or something non-specific, maybe even hypothetical. And remember that English any in negative expressions corresponds to ни with question words, ничего, никто, and so on.